Hello, everyone. So it's been 8-ish months since I've done one of these, and there's a ton of new weapons, and a lot of rebalancing work has happened, and so there's a brand new weapon meta. So we've got a lot to discuss. I'm gonna break this into two parts because I've got 64 weapons to cover today. So we're gonna start off with the melees, and then I'm gonna make another video where we go over all the ranged weapons. So that's guns, crossbows, uh, regular bows, and what have you. So yeah, we'll start with all the melees. I'll try to make this as fast as possible, but no promises because there's 65. Sorry, 64. So yeah, we'll see how this goes. Just brief explanation. This top category, this is absurdly good. These are OP meta weapons. A tier, this is weapons that are good, like these are just genuinely good weapons, or these are weapons that are meta, so everybody's running them. B tier, this is weapons that are functional, they're usable. I don't really recommend them if you can get a meta weapon, but they do work. C tier, bad weapons, don't recommend them. These are just not good. And then D tier, alright, stands for dog shit. Never use the shit in D tier in a combat scenario if you can avoid it. If you've got nothing else, I guess go for it. Otherwise, just don't touch D tier if you can help it. Okay, so starting off, speaking of D tier, man, we got some interesting stuff. I'm not going to put it in D tier. I know a lot of people would, but I'm going to put the boarding Pike, it is called. I'm going to put it in C tier. It's a cool little weapon. It's got the longest reach of any weapon, but what really, really bites in the ass is it's just so slow. It's a little bit faster than axes, a little bit, but it's painfully slow. And it's got the longest swing in North America, and so it telegraphs like crazy. You can see these things coming from a mile away. And so I do not recommend running a boarding pike if you can help it. There are many better options out there. And then next we got the long spear. Honestly, I'd argue it's good or meta. Probably good. It's certainly not meta. You don't see a lot of long spears, but they're very good. They're essentially a replacement to old Great Pike meta, which they would be meta themselves if there weren't better options now. There are better options to Great Pike meta, namely because Great Pike got nerfed into oblivion, but in general, these are just good weapons. They're like the Great Pike, the old Great Pike, in speed and damage. They just don't get as much stamina as old Great Pike. So they're still pretty good. I quite like the long spear. It's just a fun weapon. It's good. It's pre-nerf Great Pike with a little less stamina. Oh, and by the way, I'm not going to go through how to get every one of these weapons. If you want that information, feel free to leave a comment. But it would just take way too long if I detailed the process for getting every one of these weapons. So just, if you want to know, comment or watch the videos I cover that stuff on. Then we got Tomahawk. Tomahawk objectively OP right now. It does 45 damage, 90 damage thrown, which is absurd, most of any melee period. And it gets like roughly 4.5 swings per stamina bar. 5 if you stretch it, I guess. And don't get me wrong, I love Tomahawk. This has been my go-to for the last 2 years, but just because of that 4.5 swings you get with it now, I've actually strayed away from it. I've gone to Hatchets, because it's really good. I just prefer to have the stamina. But yeah, if you get a Tomahawk, it's objectively OP as shit. Go for it. The thing is, though, the reason it's not, like, unbalanced OP as shit, the reason you don't see these things dominating, is because they're a lot harder to get now, so just keep that in mind. They are a master smithing item that requires a ton of other materials to create, so that's why you're not seeing Tomahawks everywhere. Alright. Then we've got the Tribal Tomahawk. This is literally a Stone Hatchet reskin, just like the Tribal Hatchet. They're all Stone Hatchet reskins. You can even argue the Stone Spear is a Stone Hatchet reskin. Does 25 damage, 65 thrown, 8 swings per stamina bar, which is the really big thing with these things. They're very spammable weapons. I don't personally spam, but if you want something to spam, these are the weapons to go for. So we're also going to group in Stone Hatchet and a Tribal Hatchet, just because they're functionally identical, and they're literally identical in stats. Yeah, all 25 damage, 4-hit kill, essentially. All 65 thrown. They can all be thrown, by the way, except natives will spawn with a unlootable, undroppable version of this hatchet that can't be thrown. So just FYI, natives, if any of you exist out there. And then we've got the Bayonet. Bayonets are meta. I wouldn't say they're good. I guess, yeah, no, I'll say they're good. I'll say they're good. Bayonets are great in a lot of scenarios. They're great. They're great in combos. They're great in lots and lots of group fights. They're really good in group fights, especially in fights where opponents aren't like gonna be able to react and block left quickly enough. They're very good in combos, as I said. Great, paired with axes. Great paired with other fast melees. Like a Dragoon Bayonet combo is fucking deadly in duels, let me tell you. Even a Tomahawk Bayonet combo, just nasty, nasty business. So, yeah, Bayonets are good. I don't personally run them because they're so, like, predictable. Because you can always swing on one side. But they're good, they're good weapons. I like Bayonets, even though I don't use them. But yeah, they're good. They're definitely meta. Then we got the Stone Spear. Again, this is literally Hatchet reskin. It just gets a little bit more reach, but it has the same stats. It's functionally identical, same speed. It's a hatchet, it's a hatchet. It's a hatchet as a polearm. It's cool little weapon. I like them. They're very, very easy to get, just like the Stone Hatchet. And again, eight swings per stamina bar, which is absurd. Then we've got the Broadaxe. I'm going to put all the stupid axes on here because I just can't be asked. Broadaxe, Boarding Axe, and Great Axe. Great Axe is the worst of them all. It's the slowest of the three. It does do the most damage. It does like 80 damage, if I recall correctly. 80 or 85. It's one of the two. So it does do good damage. The problem is it uses literally half its stamina bar with every swing, which is pretty damning. You get basically one swing, two swings out of it, which is cool, but it's just terrible. Especially in duels, it's just terrible. Unless you pair it with a knife. There are knife Great Axe combos out there. They can do some damage, but even then I wouldn't recommend it. I definitely prefer to pair a knife with a Broadaxe. So yeah, we've got the Broadaxe and the Boarding Axe up here. These two are little, two peas in a pod. They're very similar. Broadaxe does like 5 more damage, so it's like at 75. Boarding Axe to 70. The Broadaxe uses a little more stamina than the Boarding Axe, but it's very, very comparable, so it doesn't even really matter that much. Personally, I just prefer the Broadaxe. I think it actually has a little bit more reach, and it just does more damage. And yeah, I just prefer the Broadaxe. I just think it's a better one. Then we've got the stupid-ass Tribal War Axe. This will probably be a contentious pick, but I just cannot stand this thing. It is true that the Tribal War Axe uses a little bit less stamina than the other axes. The problem is the Tribal War Axe gives you 50 damage. It's ridiculously low for an axe. It is just barely cutting it. I am not a fan of the fact that it only does 50. It's like just barely above that line to be usable. So yeah, if you see one of these, I just don't recommend using it. Even as a native, like there are better native melees out there. So yeah, I don't recommend it. It's just 50 is not enough for an axe, for a weapon at the speed of an axe. With the stamina consumption of an axe, you want to do a lot more than 50 damage. Okay, then we've got the Tribal Spear, we've got the Tribal Pike, and the Ritual Spear. Ritual Spear is essentially a stone hatchet that has... Well, actually, sorry, I'll do it this way. Ritual Spear is a stone spear with less stamina, and so it's just not good. Use a stone spear. Hell, use any of the other native spears. They're all better than the Ritual Spear. Speaking of native spears, we've got the Tribal Spear and the Tribal Pike. Tribal Pike does 65... No, fuck me, that's 65, idiot. Tribal Pike does 35 damage, 70 thrown, which is pretty good. But I will say this, the Tribal Pike has a bit of, like, a boarding pike-itis, I guess you could say. It's really long and slow. It's like a boarding pike. I don't recommend it, but it does do decent damage for a native weapon. It's definitely better than this piece of shit. Anyways, Tribal Spear, on the other hand, is like Old Tomahawk if Old Tomahawk was a polearm. This thing does 70 damage, just like Old Tomahawk. Sorry, 30 damage, just like Old Tomahawk. 70 thrown, just like Old Tomahawk. And it gets 6 swings per stamina bar, just like Old Tomahawk. So, it's good. It's also pretty damn fast. And so I definitely recommend it. Probably my favorite native melee right now. Then we got the Cutlass and the Saber. I'm just going to group them together because they're functionally identical. Sabers are harder to get than Cutlasses. They also look cooler. They're also expensive to insure. Although I don't know why you'd insure a melee in the first place. These are fine. They're run-of-the-mill. They're the only real benefit to using Sabers and Cutlasses instead of Dragoon Swords is they've got very good like hitbox detection. because they've got such lengthy fucking hitboxes. The entire length of that blade is the hitbox. And so you can sit inside someone swinging and you'll hit pretty much every time. Damn good weapons if you like running inside people's hitboxes. Otherwise, they're just very lackluster. They do 40. They get like 5 swings per stamina bar, roughly. They're not bad. They're just not great. They don't excel in really any category. Although Cutlass is cheap as fuck, so if you're a new player, maybe go for a Cutlass. They're good learning weapons for sure. Then we got the Dragoon Sword. Absurdly good. It's basically an unthrowable Tomahawk with more range. The Dragoon reaches crazy far for a sword. Personally, I think it's actually kind of an ugly model. It doesn't feel like it's sized for Roblox characters. The hilt is just tiny. I think the pommel should be a little bit more curved. I don't know. I'm not really a fan of the look of it, but it's a damn good weapon. It does 45 damage, just like the Tomahawk. Gets like 4.5 swings per stamina bar, and it's very fast. And it's got some neat animations. It's a combination of sword animations and spear animations. And so it's got a really cool thrust animation, but otherwise, it's just a good weapon. It's just absurd. I love this weapon, and it's master smithing, like the Tomahawk. That's why it gets a free pass for being OP. Oh shit. Put that down. Then we got the Boxstick. Bonks are cute. They're little meme weapons. It's actually called the Tribal Club if you want to buy one. But bonks are cute. I don't know. They're little meme weapons. I just said this. But yeah, I mean, they exist. You know, the cool thing with these is you have a chance, an RNG chance, to ragdoll a player. If you hit them with one, it's a little higher. The chance goes up if you chuck at them and hit them. It's like, if you're like melee hitting them, it's like 1 in 4, 1 in 3. If you're chucking it, it's like every other chuck you get a ragdoll on the guy you throw it at. So it's a cute little weapon, but it only does 20 damage. It's slow as fuck, so I don't really recommend using one. Then we've got the War Axe. War Axe is... Ooh, I'm actually not sure now, because... I don't know if War Axes have been changed like Tomahawk. I think they're the same. If so, they're also still rare as hell because they're treasure weapons. But that put them in good because both the War Axe and Labrie's Axe did pre-update. I actually don't know if the stats have changed. I'm pretty sure they're the same. But no one used them, so who really cares? But anyways, War Axes and Labrie's Axes both do 30 damage, 70 thrown, 6 hits per stamina bar, just like old Tomahawk did before it got buffed. But yeah, they were good back then. I think actually they do 75 thrown, if I recall correctly. They do 5 more than the regular Tomahawk when thrown, which is kind of a cool little thing. But otherwise, they are good because they are fast. They are essentially old Tomahawk. The reason I don't use them though is because they're treasure weapons and they're a bitch to replace. So I mean, they exist, you know. If you want to use them, they are here. You know, they're good for like Bayable and other non-looting islands, I guess. Then we got the backsword. Backswords are doggy. I'm not going to put it in D tier, although it might even deserve to be there. I'm not sure. Backswords are just not very good. They get 5 swings. They do 30 damage. They're essentially worse variants of the swords above them. Because they're fast, don't get me wrong. They're spammable, but they just don't do enough damage. You'd be better off with a Cutlass or a Saber. Backswords are not very good. Ooh, and then we have the Falchion. I'm not a fan of the Falchion. It was done so dirty. It was C tier before this update, but now with this update, we got weapons doing the same damage as the Falchion with more swings per stamina bar and much faster. Falchion's horrible right now. So Falchions do 45, just like the Tomahawk and Dragoon Sword. Only they're the speed of fucking axes. They are slow as shit. I do not like Falchions, okay? And then they've got abysmal reach. They really have bad reach. You would not expect it, but they have bad reach. Then Great Pike. It's kind of in between B and C category, because it was nerfed pretty damn hard. I guess I'll do B. If I recall correctly, it gets like 4 swings, and it's still doing its 40 damage, but it's just so much slower now. It's a little bit slower than the Saber and the Cutlass, if I recall correctly. It's just not very good. I guess I'll put it B. It is usable. If you have one, you can use it. But it's just not great. It's just kind of there now. It's very average. Okay, and then we've got... Oh my god, all the shitty native knives. All knives. All of them. Down here. You're all bad. Oh, missed one. There we go. All of these knives. These all do 20 damage, and they all get 5 swings. They can skin animals, sure, but like, why would you use one in combat? You know, these are not for combat. These are for skinning animals. So yeah, don't use knives in combat. Most of these are native knives. Some of them are treasure knives. This one's a craftable colonist knife. So just keep that in mind. Then we got the throwing knife. These are good. I like them. They're pretty hard to aim. They've got a weird aiming reticle. They're not like Tomahawks and Hatchets, if you've ever thrown those. They're a lot more like spears, throwing them. And they're even harder than spears, if I'm being perfectly honest. Especially to recover after a battle. They're good. They only do 50 damage. They can't skin... Sorry, they only do 15 damage. They can't skin animals, but it's not there for skinning animals. You throw it at people. So yeah, I'd say they're certainly usable. They're good in, like, emergency scenarios. You can get a knife bandolier and feed 4 of the damn things into your inventory. You can fling them, you know, basically non-stop machine gun fire. They're pretty cool. I only carry 1 on me, but you can carry more if you want to. Then we got the Rapier. Rapier's 35 damage, 6 swings per stamina bar. But the real cool thing about the Rapier is it's just damn near uncounterable. It's like old Great Pike. When it comes to trying to block a Rapier, you just can't. Because, well, okay, old Great Pike at least telegraphed a bit. The Rapier, the right swing and left swing, like, they look functionally identical, right? It's kind of funny how similar the right and left swings look on the Rapier. So that's why it's just kind of a pain to fight. Because you can't block it. You have to spam it to death, which is annoying, but it's nothing in the world. So yeah, Rapier, I'm definitely saying good. It might be meta, we'll see. Maybe next list it'll be meta, we'll see. Then we got the Butcher's Knife. Sorry, Butcher's... Actually, I'm gonna put them all here, yeah. Okay, so then we got this funny-looking thing, the Meat Cleaver. Sorry. It is, it's like a cooking thing, if I recall correctly. It's like 2-3 cooking, 2-2 cooking, one of those. It's cool. It's basically a Superior Knife reskin, does 25 damage, gets 5 swings. The problem I have with it is it's slower than Superior Knife. It's like, okay, imagine you swing a Superior Knife like a Tomahawk, and that's the Butcher Knife thing. It's not bad, it's just slower than Superior Knife, therefore worse than the Superior Knife. Otherwise, it's the same. Then we've got the actual Superior Knife. I love these. These are good. You should always have them. Don't get me wrong, they're shit in combat, but they are an option. Actually, you know what? No, hold on. That's more like it. Because, yeah, they're not great. Oh, sorry. That's more like it. They're not great combat weapons. They exist. They exist. You know, there's not much else to say about them. They're cool, but they're not, like, top of the line. There are better knives out there, namely the Kukri. And the Kukri is unlootable, just like the Superior Knife, and just like this one. That's why I'm doing these ones apart from these, because all of these knives here are lootable, but the Meat Cleaver is not lootable, Superior Knife, not lootable, Kukri, not lootable. Everything else is, though, so just all these other knives, those are lootable, so just keep that in mind. But yeah, Superior Knife, 25 damage, 5 swings. Yeah, it's dependable. Everyone uses Superior Knives. Yeah, then above it, we've got the Esteemed Kukri, which is a ultra-rare treasure drop. It's actually rarer than Gisele's, and it gets 6 swings, and again, 25 damage, and like the Dragoon sword, it's got special animations where there's a stab and a slash. It's pretty cool. It's not 2 stabs or 2 slashes, like these 2 respective weapons. So, Kukri is very cool. If you can get a hand on one, they're usable, but again, these are knives. You're not going to be using knives as your mainline melee. They're emergency backup weapons, and they're here to skin animals. Cool fact, Superior Knives skin animals like 8 cuts instead of 10, and then Kukris and Butcher Meat Cleaver things skin them in 5 cuts instead of 8, so you can skin animals faster if you want to steal an animal from someone, I guess. Otherwise, not especially helpful, but yeah, I mean, that is the Northwind Melee's ranked. These 2 are objectively OP, these are good, if not meta. These are usable, but I wouldn't do them if you have better ones. These are not good, and these are terrible. Don't use them. So yeah, that's my list. And next, we're going to upload all of the ranged weapons in the next video, so stay tuned for that.